Hey guys, it's Vase Take. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave movie recommendations down in the comments below. I am on chapter 16 of the Shards, and it is then I realized that no, I am not breezing through the TV show. The TV show is doing it on its own. It's sometimes hard not to compare the TV show to the book because in the book, I feel like you have a better understanding of all the characters and their relationships to one another, especially the dynamic between Susan and Brett. They are a lot closer in the book, and in the TV show, I do not like Susan at all. So after watching episode 1 and 2 and 3, I just felt like if we're going to make a show about rich, privileged teenagers, you have to make them relatable or at least make people care about them. And I do think creators are failing to make us care about the characters because there's not a lot to be said about them. But with that being said, I still really am enjoying the TV show, but I enjoy the book a lot more. And so instead of doing like a side by side of what's missing in the TV show, when the events happen in the TV show, if it's different from the book, then I'll just like tell you guys what happens in the book as we go along. With that being said, there are a few things that happen in the first 2 episodes that I feel like are a lot more important and drawn out in the book that I want to let you guys know because it makes a lot more sense and it brings a lot more depth to the characters. So there are 3 things that I want to talk about. First one is when Brett is told that they are going to throw a party for Robert. Number 2 is his conversation with Matt. And number 3, his conversation with Deborah's father, Terry. So I did say the TV show is breezing through because by chapter 6 of the Shards, Matt has not been kidnapped yet and the conversation with Terry has not happened. And it was chapter 6 to me is where I was like, okay, there is kind of a difference in the show, in the book, that I feel like is not making people resonate with the show as much as the book does. So in the TV show, Brett goes to Susan and he tells her that Robert had been following him, and Susan tells him that Robert said the same thing. She's like, Robert said that it was actually you that was following him. And so we see that Robert is, talking to Susan, has some type of relationship with Susan where he is talking about Brett to Susan. This is different in the book, and in the book it's a lot more tense. Wait. Before then, I want to point out something about Brett. So here we can see that Brett is not really truthful. He likes to exaggerate because we saw in the TV show that he first started following Robert and then eventually Robert started following him. And sometimes I feel like maybe Brett genuinely believes that he is being followed or that Robert was following him because he is just so paranoid of Robert that he just genuinely sees him as this weird shady person even though Brett is the one doing the shady things. So like I said, in chapter 6 they are all hanging out at Brett's house, and then he is told that there's going to be a party thrown for Robert. This is told in front of him, Debbie, Tom, the friend group. What we don't see is the emotional impact this has on Brett. He is very adamant. He's like, why? He is crazy. He is insane. We should not trust him. Why are you doing a party for him? He's like, he's crazy. He was in an asylum. How was he at an asylum for full time and yet he's qualified to go to our school? It's because of money. He used money to get in here, and he talks about how he had a girlfriend. How are you crazy in an asylum for full time and yet you have a relationship? Like, he is a liar. We cannot trust him. He just keeps saying it over and over. He could lie about something as small as seeing me at the movie theater. What else is he lying about? This, however, like, none of his friends are even taking in consideration what he's saying. Even Deborah is defending Robert, and in this situation you could just feel Brett's frustration that none of his friends are listening to anything that he's saying or not even trying to like see it from his point of view. He wasn't even going to bring up the fact that Robert chased him, right? But it's not, he wants them to believe him so bad about Robert being shady that he brings it up. And that is then Susan is like, actually, Robert said that you were following him. He realizes that not only did Susan know this, all of his friends knew it. All of his friends was told that Brett was following Robert. So here's this thing. It's like, wow, I already have this feeling that Robert is trying to infiltrate my friend group. Whole time Robert is talking about me to my friends, and my friends would have not even told me like, hey, Robert said that you're following him. Is it true? Almost as if they believed Robert. Yeah, so that upsets him too, because what the hell? It's one thing to throw a party for him, but it's another thing that he's saying things about me to you guys and you guys are not telling me. After this conversation, he ends up drinking himself blind. I do want to say though, Nothing that Brett is saying is based on any facts. It's all assumptions. Yeah, Robert is a little weird. He lied about going to the movies, which is weird. People lie. I'm not saying it's good, but people lie. And every time someone has lied to me, I don't automatically assume that they're a killer. That is something to take into consideration. And also, just because Robert needed help mentally does not make him or anyone who needs help mentally a serial killer. Another thing I want to bring up is in a book, Brett has a dog, and that has not been mentioned not once in the TV show. So, in the book, after he drinks, he has this terrible hangover, but he goes to Matt's house because Deborah tells him that Matt called saying to tell Brett to stop calling me. So Brett is confused. He goes to Matt's house and he sees that there is something seriously going on with Matt. He's very disheveled. He looks confused. He looks terrified. Matt asks him, he's like, why do you keep calling me and doing nothing but breathing in the phone? Brett tells him like, no, that is not me. I'm not doing that. But Matt does not believe him. And the reason why he believes is Brett is because Matt is alone. He has no friends. The only person he's close to is Brett. His mom is away. It would drive him insane to believe that someone other than Brett is doing this, is stalking him, because that means someone is going into his house, took his pet, rearranged his furniture, put this drawing on his poster. It has to be Brett, because if not, then it's a complete stranger. Because it does frustrate Brett that Matt isn't believing him, and he just changes the conversation. He's just like, I saw you and Robert talking in a parking lot. What were you guys talking about? And again, Matt tells him like, Robert was asking questions about you and about our relationship, pretty personal stuff. And then Brett accuses Matt of talking about him to Robert and saying that he's just so drugged out that he's forgetting the things that he is saying. After accusing Matt of doing all this stuff to himself, he then tries to have sex with him. One thing I have not said, and I don't really think it's that obvious. And well, there are like little scenes of him doing that to himself in the TV show. Brett is low-key sexually impulsive. Yeah, it's so weird that you accuse him of doing this all to himself, and then you want to try to after trying to gaslight him, you want to have sex. And Matt is like, get out of my house. After that, he goes into his car and he breaks down. The third and most important thing that I want to talk about, that I feel like is very, very, very important to Brett's character and what happens to him, and something that I really do think the TV show is gonna breeze over, and I do think the TV show aged them to 18. Brett is 17 in the book. Brett, they aged him to 18 because of certain things that is going to end up happening to Brett. And I just hope that Ryan Murphy, please don't rely on shock value, because what happens to Brett in chapter 15, I don't want to see on the TV. I don't want to see on the TV, and if I see it on the TV, I don't know, I might check out, because reading it or hearing it being read to me, it was very gruesome. I don't want to, I'm just gonna flat out say it, and I feel like this is not this isn't like a spoiler. I feel like we could all see it, but eventually Terry's father essays Brett in chapter 15. But there's a lot more to it that I'll talk about when we get there. So I want to talk about the dinner with Terry. This is the first dinner where Terry is talking about maybe or wanting Brett to make a script for him. It's so obvious that Terry was preying on Brett and was trying to exploit Brett because he knew that Brett had a passion for being a writer. There are a few things that happens. First, Brett talks to Zach at the bar, Zachary, who is the assistant, and Zachary tells him to be careful. And what I would like to say about Brett is Brett seems to think that he is smarter than everyone. I guess he doesn't like that, like, you know, people might think that he doesn't know what he's doing. And like when Steven says something about having Brett figured out, that offends Brett. Brett is like, I barely have myself figured out. How the hell do you have me figured out? You know, go to hell. And it's just like, you know, Brett seems to have everyone else figured out. He has Robert figured out. He has Matt figured out. But as soon as someone says that they have him figured out, it's like, oh no, absolutely not. Also, another thing is that Brett acknowledges that he knows that Terry is a little perverted and predatory, but he's like, that has nothing to do with me. As long as I don't let Terry do anything to me. I know I am not interested in Terry. I will not let Terry touch me. We're going to be okay. I'm not, it's not happening. Brett doesn't really seem to, he is 17, so he doesn't seem to know like the danger that he is in this situation where he's being preyed on by someone that is very powerful, influential, rich, and older than him. And another thing about the situation is that they're at a bar where everyone is there. There are other celebrities, and they all know that Brett is underage because Terry wanted Brett to wear his high school uniform. That's how perverted he is. He wanted to see him looking so youthful and young. And so everyone there is aware that Brett is underage, but they turn a blind eye because of who Terry is. And so if anything was to happen to Brett, there is no one there that would save him. He doesn't understand this, how much danger he is in this situation. And he believes that he has it figured out. And even when the essay does eventually happen in chapter 15, he still tries to make it seem as if he was in control and that he is not a victim. It's really sad. I got a little passionate. This leads us back to the TV show now. Episode 3, Help Me, Rhonda. No one seems to care about the fact that Matt is still missing, and even about the fact that there was a bloody backpack found, except for Brett. But Brett feels like he can't really bring it up as much because if he does, then people are going to realize that him and Matt had a relationship that he lied to everyone saying that they didn't have that type of relationship. So therefore, he can't really talk about his worry for him as much. A second thing that I want to say is if you might be thinking, why haven't Brett went to the police about hearing Matt scream and stuff? And in the book, he thought about going to the cops, but he feared that if he did that eventually his relationship with Matt would be exposed, and so he is scared of being outed and what that would do to him in his future. And things get a lot more darker when this girl Rhonda goes missing. Rhonda was a really sweet girl. She was very funny. Everyone loved her. She was kind. She was just herself. She was a breath of fresh air. I know they sound like a crime documentary, but shit, everyone loved her. They did not know at the time that she had a neurological condition that made her speak out, say vulgar things. But the things that she would say would be really, really outlandish, and it would make people say, "Really, Rhonda?" So then she ended up getting the nickname Really Rhonda. Like I said, she was herself, and even when disco was going out of style, she still loved disco and skating. She would be the only one at the skating rink, and so one day she's at the skating rink by herself, and the trawler was waiting for her and took her from the place that makes her the most happiest. And after she doesn't come home, her parents report to the police. The police go to the skating rink and they find blood in the back of the skating rink. Brett notices that it takes his friends 3 days to get over the fact that Matt is missing along with Rhonda. Deborah is obsessed with this TV show called Dance Off, where a whole bunch of high school kids, they go on this show where they dance, and it's very fun. It's like the white version of the Soul Train. She wants to get on there because she wants to win, and she wants to be famous. She wants to have attention. She wants to be in the limelight. This is something that all her friends are doing. She's like, you guys have to do this with me. I have to win this. Suzanne, while also true in the book, does not want to go to homecoming. She doesn't want to be homecoming queen. I don't really know why, but she's just like, aren't we a little too old for homecoming? Actually, yeah, you guys are too old for high school, but let's not go there. I can't stand Robert. Robert is literally I would just hate, oh my god, I would just hate if someone I didn't like was forced into my friend group. I would have to just get rid of the whole friend group. Why is he here? He's flirting with Susan in front of Tom's face. Both of them are disrespectful. And then Susan, who is president, she gives a speech about Rhonda, how they need to save her and all that stuff. Why is he up there? Why is he up there with you? Who is he? And he's speaking on the mic. Who is he? Why is no one questioning this? You are a new bitch. Not only are you a new bitch, why the fuck are you speaking with the class president? The disrespect. Brett meets with Terry again, and they talk about his story. It's about a boy named Brett, and so he gives him a little rundown of what the story is. But Terry tells him that his story is missing something. It's missing loss. Terry ends up taking Brett to a secluded area, a road where only him and a few other celebrities had access to. You need a code to get through, and they go through there. But while they're like on a cliff talking in the car, there is a van that comes through with them. This van has been around, I think it's a trawler. The trawler's in the van because this van has been following Brett and all the people that have been kidnapped. And so when Brett sees this van, he's like, I thought you said only a few people had access to this area. And Terry's like, yeah, that I know of. And so Brett is like, take me home. Like, to be fair, Terry just takes him home. Brett goes to Matt's house and it's empty because, you know, Matt is missing, but he reminisces and he takes an article of Matt's clothing and smells it, and he starts crying, even though like he lets out a sob and not a single tear goes down his eye. So this is where things differentiate from the book, and if you don't want to be spoiled, because this might be a huge spoiler, I don't know how this is going to end in the TV show, but this is a spoiler for the TV show, so I'm going to say it. I'm gonna give you a timestamp. If you don't want to hear what the spoiler is. So I'm gonna say it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, boom. So in the TV show, after he reminisces about Matt, that's what it just ends there. In the book, he sneaks a pair of Matt's underwear, right? But he goes out, there's a pool, but he sees that Matt's parents, they're like sitting outside, right? Talks to both the mom and the dad. At this point in time, the spoiler is Matt is dead. So he has been found dead, and his death at this time has been ruled a accidental drowning from overdosing, right? Matt's father shows Brett pictures of Matt where you can see that he's been bruised up, obviously signs of foul play, you know? And so Brett is like, you know, there's just no way. Matt brings up Robert, and Matt's father kind of freaks out. He's like, are you saying Robert hurt my kid? What are you trying to say about Robert? Are you saying Robert did this? You know, so like, yeah, back to the TV show. I forgot to say this. So while Brett is in Matt's room, Matt's phone starts ringing, and it is a trawler breathing heavily through the phone. So obviously the trawler is literally stalking Brett. Debbie's mother is washed up. She would say like a washed up actress. She's going through it. You know, her husband is gay. He likes little boys. He's weird. And she gave up all of her dreams to be married to him. Everything that she could have achieved, she abandoned for him. And yeah, she has animosity towards him, and even her daughter, which isn't fair. Again, Brett follows Robert as they're leaving high school. Brett is becoming addicted to following Robert. Like, you know, you want to say what you want about Robert, but there are things that you're doing that is a bit weird, okay? So he follows him to where he would find out is Robert's aunt rental property. He waits until Robert leaves, and then he goes into the house where he finds a locked door, opens it, goes down the stairs, and he notices that there is a whole basement full of like empty rooms. I ain't gonna lie, it is kind of weird. He sees a cage. There's nothing in the cage but like a gecko covered in blood, and he sees the high school he goes to uniform, and it's covered in blood, and he runs off. That is how episode 3 ends. Episode 4, Robert's party. Episode starts off with Ryan, and Ryan is taking a shower and eating and all that stuff. So Ryan is secretly an adult film actor. He's starring in adult films, and yeah, so they aged him up to make this seem less weird. Apparently though, since VCRs is becoming very popular, the person he works for is like, hey, we are going to start putting your films on VCR for people to purchase. Now this is a problem because Robert was under the impression that all of his films will only be seen overseas, and so now he's at risk of people, his friends and everyone, seeing that he stars in these films. He ends up meeting a new hire who ends up being Deborah's mom. Okay, so meanwhile, Tom is having problems. His parents have divorced, and so he's trying to deal with that. All of his friends, they meet up to hang out at a bar. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, Susan is disrespectful. She is so disrespectful because Robert literally does not hide the fact that he flirts with her openly in front of Tom, and it's just like no one brings it up. Like, I'm sorry, even if I was like, how close is this friend group? Because I could never sit here and watch my friend openly do this. I would be like, what the fuck are you doing? This is weird. I doesn't want to have the party anymore, but they all agreed to have the party anyways. And so now at the party, Susan is up Robert's ass, and so Tom goes up to them, and he's like, can I talk to you, Susan? And she's looking at Robert all hesitant, like, oh, should I leave his side? And Tom is like, do you really need permission from him to talk to me? They end up talking, and he's like, I clearly see, like, there is something going on here. He's flirting with you. And she's just like, no, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. And Tom is like, I can clearly see that there is something going on here. Then Deborah, she intervenes, and she's like, hey, she sees that this girl Cha-Cha is there. Now, Cha-Cha, remember how I said that Deborah wanted to be in this dance-off thing? Cha-Cha has been winning. She has been getting all the attention. She is Deborah's nemesis, and she's like, what the hell is she doing here? Kick her out. Susan, who wants to keep this good image, she's like, no, I won't kick her out. And this upsets Deborah, because Deborah is like, I would have done it for you. I will say that Deborah is classist. You know, she tells Cha-Cha to go back to Compton on her stripper pole. Deborah is very privileged. The fact that someone that she deems to be lower than her, someone that doesn't have as much money as her, who lives in the ghetto, has all this intention. Now, that's a problem for her. And it does, you know, and this is a person of color. But it's the fact that this person of color that has less money than me is getting all this attention, and she's shining so bright. That's what I want. Yeah, it's pretty weird. So Deborah goes to Brett. She gives him a book. She's like, hey, I know that you like reading, and so I got you a first edition book. His reaction to the book, he is so non-appreciative. He's just like, well, it came out last month, so technically they're all first editions. And this makes her cry. And he doesn't console her. He's like, do you want to go to Susan? And then he like touches her shoulder and leaves. Like, damn. He does not deserve her. That cheating bastard. Deborah ends up going into her room where Ryan is there to console her. So, you know, tell her like she's a good person. You're really beautiful and all that stuff. Brett ends up meeting with a group of people who used to go to middle school with Robert. And they're like, they joke and they're like, dang, we would have thought Robert would be in jail by now. And so this is like, Brett is like, pray tell, why do you say this? And they're like, oh, it's just a joke. There was a rumor that was going around, you know, about people saying that Robert killed his mom. And, you know, this is all Brett needed to hear. While dancing with Tom, Susan sees Brett whisper something to Robert, and after that, Robert starts drinking. Robert is drinking. He goes on a dance floor. He's dancing, having fun. Everyone is cheering him on. And Susan is like, he should not be drinking on his medication. And Robert is like, he shouldn't be even here. He's crazy. I keep telling you, he's crazy and dangerous. But Susan doesn't want to hear that. She's like, what's wrong with you? You're the psycho. Yeah, I don't know why this bitch want to play Captain Save-A-Ho. I will never fuck with her or Robert. I don't like them. Trawler could take them. I wouldn't care. Debbie and Ryan, they're in the middle of hooking up. But Debbie starts feeling bad. And before they do anything too serious, she stops cheating on Brett. The irony is that Brett has cheated on her with Ryan. So, and in the book, they had like a whole weekend of just having sex and chilling. But, you know, Susan asks Brett, she's like, what did you say to Robert? Because whatever you said is causing him to act like a damn fool. And it's just crazy because, okay, yeah, it is Brett's fault. But like, how did Susan don't know that? Like, how are you just going to assume that your friend is the reason why this weirdo is drinking? Debbie and Ryan, they're, you know, trying to put their clothes back on from doing what they were doing. This weird cult nigga giving Night Stalker vibes, Charles Manson vibes, comes in with a knife and he locks the door. I just want to say, Susan pisses me off every time she talks and she's on screen. And she makes me not want to watch this show. I've watched episode 5. Which I can't wait to talk about because it's my favorite episode. I just can't stand her. And, you know, seeing Robert act like this, she's like, oh my God, do something, Tom. Tom tries to stop him. They start wrestling. And then Robert kisses him on the mouth. So then Robert jumps in the pool. He's refusing to come up. And so Susan, here she go. She jumps in the water and Tom jumps in the water and they save him. And she performs CPR on him. After saving Robert to none of our happiness, they hear Debbie screaming and Tom and Brett, they immediately go to her room. The crazy cold dude just lets them in. Just opens the door, lets them in. Tom tells the dude, he's like, you need to leave. The dude is like, is that what you want, Tom? You want me to leave? Tom is like, yes, I want you to leave. And he's like, okay, well, that's what I want. And he just leaves. it does seem like there is some familiarity with Tom and this dude. Seeing stuff like this make me want to just like, oh my god, let me keep reading this book. But you know, I'm over here juggling a full-time job, trying to be on YouTube, trying to do all this stuff, and it's like, if I was on vacation, I would have been finished this book, but I can't. But I'm like, shit, I'm halfway there, but I'm very interested in seeing how this plays out in the book. But you notice, wait a minute, honestly, I think chapter 6, I'm in the beginning of chapter 16. That might be where Robert's party happens. So I'm probably not that far from this. But it's just so crazy how like halfway through the book, the party hasn't happened. But episode 4, I mean, it is 4 out of 9 episodes. So technically, I guess it is the same halfway through. Kills me when TV shows have 9 episodes. I've been watching the Vampire Diaries. It's like 24 episodes in each season. The next day, they're all lounging at the pool talking, and it's very tense. Brett asks Debbie, he's like, why were you and Ryan without your shirts on? And she's like, she lies and she says that the man made them do it. Okay, so then he asks Tom, he's like, how did that man know your name? And he's like, he didn't know my name. And Brett is like, yeah, he did, because he said your name, you know, the lies. Tom is like, well, he must have heard Debbie say it, which is what I thought, because she was like, Tom, he has a knife. And then after that, the man said his name. So I kind of, I got that from that. Like, okay, he heard. Yeah. And then Susan asks Brett, she's like, what did you say to Robert that caused him to lash out? And Brett is like, nothing. Bro, whole time he literally said to Robert, I know you killed your mom, you little asshole. Honestly, I don't feel bad for Robert, fuck him, but you did say something, you liar. Brett asks Susan, he's like, what did he say to you? And she's like, nothing. So we can see like they're all lying to each other. There's just a whole bunch of tension. And I will say, in this ending scene, there was this song called Ice House that plays, and it's really good. I love 80s music, and yeah, this is a really good song. And this is the episode where I was like, okay, it's starting to pick up, it's starting to become promising, I'm starting to really like it. And episode 5 is my favorite episode by far, or so far that I've seen, and I can't wait to talk about it because it just, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you like, subscribe, and leave movie recommendations in the comments below.